Good morning. I'm Secretary of State Jeff Bullock, and I want to welcome everyone here to the campus of Delaware State University in Dover, Delaware. Under the laws and constitutions of the state of Delaware and the United States, I am directed by the governor to convene this meeting of the Electoral College of Delaware for the purpose of electing the President and the Vice President of the United States. I want to thank Dr. Tony Allen, the President of Delaware State, as well as Jackie Griffith, who's here today, for allowing us to be on campus. And thanks to David Mangler of my staff for all his work in putting together this meeting. Before we begin, I want to say just a few things very briefly. First, I want to congratulate Anthony Alvens, our state election commissioner, and his staff for a smooth and successful election here in the first state. In Delaware, as was the case throughout our country, the pandemic required many people to vote remotely for the first time. And Anthony and his staff rose to that challenge with great success. Second, to my fellow secretaries of state around the country, and to thousands of county and municipal election officials and workers, thank you for your incredible efforts this year. Fair elections are nothing to be taken for granted, and we have watched as many of you put the interests of our country above all else to ensure the fairness and accuracy of this election. You are the true patriots of 2020. And all Americans owe you their gratitude. Finally, to our new president and vice president, as Delawareans, we could not be more proud to send one of our own to lead this nation. We do so at an unprecedented time in our country's history. The combined challenges of the pandemic, economic uncertainty, and the struggle for social, economic, and environmental justice are a test for even the greatest nation in the world. We wish the new administration the courage and judgment to lead us through this long, dark winter, and to, as Lincoln said in his second inaugural, bind up the nation's wounds as we move towards renewed prosperity. We begin that process today by completing the work of this election. I am honored to be here with our electors, Marla Blunt Carter, John Danello, and Marie Mayer. Today, our electors will make history, as others have for over 2 centuries, by fulfilling the will of the people with the casting of their votes for President and Vice President of the United States. The process for nominating and selecting electors and having them vote is established by the U.S. Constitution and Delaware law. Shortly after the Republican and Democratic parties nominated their presidential and vice presidential candidates at their national political conventions this past summer, state leaders of both parties nominated electors to stand for those candidates and sent those names to Delaware's Elections Commissioner. Last month, we cast our votes as citizens. Those votes were tabulated and then certified by our superior courts in each county. The results were then sent to Governor Carney, who added together each county's votes and ascertained the names of the winning electors. The governor then prepared the following certificate of ascertainment. It reads, "Whereas an election was held in the state of Delaware on Tuesday, the 3rd day of November, in the year of our Lord 2020, that being the Tuesday next after the first Monday in said month, in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution and laws of the state of Delaware, in that behalf, for the purpose of choosing by ballot 3 electors for the election of a president and vice president of the United States. Whereas the official certificates or returns of said election held in the several counties of the said state, in due manner made out, signed and executed, have been delivered to me according to the laws of the said state by the Superior Court of said counties, and having examined said returns and enumerated and ascertained the number of votes for each and every candidate or person voted for as one of such electors, the results appear as follows. Marla Blunt Carter, 296,268 votes. John Danello, 296,268 votes. And Marie Mayer, 296,268 votes. For Roberts Brokaw, 200,603 votes. Chris Kenny, 200,603 votes. And Ken Simpler Sr., 200,603 votes. The certificate of ascertainment reveals that the duly elected and chosen electors for President and Vice President of the United States are Marla Blunt Carter, John Danello, and Marie Mayer. At this time, I'm going to turn to the electors to cast their votes for President and Vice President, according, again, to the laws and constitutions of the United States and the state of Delaware. Mr. Danello.
Good morning. My name is John Danello, and I volunteer to serve as the chairperson of the electoral delegation. Do you all agree?
Yes. My name is Marla Blunt Carter, and I volunteer to serve as secretary of this electoral delegation. Do you agree?
We agree. Madam Secretary, the certificate of vote is before us. I am casting my vote for Joseph R. Biden and Kamala D. Harris.
I am casting my vote for Joseph R. Biden and for Kamala D. Harris.
I am casting my vote for Joseph R. Biden and for Kamala D. Harris.
We will now each proceed to sign the certificate of vote.
I ask that each elector sign the duplicate originals of the certificate of vote also.
Let's do it without this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Mayor.
We, the undersigned electors of President and Vice President of the United States of America for the respective terms beginning on the 20th day of January, A.D. 2021, being electors duly and legally appointed and qualified by and for the state of Delaware, as appears by a next certificate made and delivered to us by the executive of said state, having met agreeably to the provisions of law at Dover in the state of Delaware on the first Monday after the second Wednesday in December of the year 2020, being the 14th day of the month, do hereby certify that being so assembled and duly organized, we proceed to vote by ballot and balloted for the president and then vice president by distinct ballots. And we further certify that the following are two distinct lists, one of the votes for president, the other of the votes for vice president, so cast as aforesaid. Witness our hands on this 14th day of December, A.D. 2020. These duplicate certificates have been prepared and signed in accordance with state and federal law and will be distributed as follows. 1, by registered mail to the President of the Senate of the United States. 2, to the Delaware Secretary of State, of which is to be held subject to the order of the President of the Senate of the United States. 2, by registered mail to the Archivist of the United States. 1, to the Chief Judge of the U.S. District Court for Delaware. Madam Secretary, prepare and sign the minutes of these proceedings, please. Mr. Secretary, the electors have concluded their business and are adjourned.
Thank you, electors, for performing your constitutional duties today. The electors have cast 3 votes for Joseph R. Biden of Delaware for President of the United States, and 3 votes for Kamala D. Harris of California for Vice President of the United States. And now, before we conclude, do any of our electors wish to make remarks?
I would.
Ms. Mayer.
Thank you, Secretary Bullock and Director Mangler, for such a safe process for us to execute this process today. This is the year 2020. It's the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage. And I want to thank the many women in America, especially African American women, who not only voted, but they also educated many other Americans on how to register and to vote in 2020. I also want to thank the parents and teachers and community members of our country who educate our children and youth to understand U.S. government, our Constitution, the rule of law, and how to discern truth. It's an honor to be here today to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Blunt Carter, please.
Thank you, Secretary. First, I would like to just say that this is an amazing day and just such a historic moment. To be able to vote for Delaware's own Joe Biden to be the President of the United States is such an honor. And it's also an honor to sign my name and to cast a vote for Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, the first woman to serve as Vice President and the first person of color, and to do that at Delaware State University, our HBCU. It really moves me. I'm humbled and honored to serve as an elector and to sign my name 9 times to documents that will become a part of history is personal, because over a year ago I had a stroke and couldn't even pick up a pen, let alone sign my name. And so to sign my name, it signified so much, because if I can come back from a stroke, I know this country, under the leadership of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, can come back from this very dark time. So I believe that this is historic for all of us, and I'm just so grateful for this opportunity to serve in this capacity. Thank you for all that have voted, for all that have been a part of this process to make our democracy work. And I believe that we're stronger and better because of this election that we've all come through together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dinello.
50 years ago, almost to the month, about 3 months difference, I met a young man asking him to run for a local office. The young man explained to me that his interest really was constitutional law and foreign affairs. And he gave me an argument. But with the help of his wife, we convinced him to run for office. About 2 months after that, that same gentleman asked me out to lunch, I thought to talk about the election that was now over. That man told me he was going to run for Senate of the United States. That man was Joe Biden, obviously. I've known him that long. I've used the expression then, he was a comer. In our day, that meant he was someone to be reckoned with later. Joe surely has lived up to that situation. I think, and I want to go on record, we could not have picked in these times. Over the last 4 years, this country has been so divided. We have on both sides, radicals on the left and the right, calling for the abolition of the Constitution. I know that the man we elected president will uphold that Constitution and get us back on the road of law. My case rests.
Thank you, Mr. Donnell. And thank you again to all three of our electors for your work here today. Our job is done. Thank you for all those who are listening for joining us here today at Delaware State University. May God bless this great state and the United States of America.